Testing 1, 2, 3, test. Testing 1, 2, 3, test. Commissioner Kino, do you want to test your audio and video?
Testing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I can myself out now.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Hi, Commissioner Kawada. Would you like to test your audio and video now?
Can you hear and see me? Sorry, it took me a moment.
Oh, no problem. Yes, I hear you and I see you. Thank you,
Oh,
Commissioner.
all right. Thank you.
Hi, Commissioner Andrian. Would you like to test your audio and video now? Hi, Commissioner Kushney. Would you like to test your audio and video now?
Start video. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear and I see you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Chair Curtis. Would you also like to test out your video and audio? Hi, Commissioner McAdam. Would you like to test your audio and video now?
Hi, does that work?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mike's here.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Takenaka, can we also test your audio and video?
Sure. 1, 2, 3.
Got it. Thank you.
Looks like I got 125, so we got about a 5-minute warning. At 1:30, I'll call the meeting to order and I'll ask Ned to take a roll call.
Yes, Chair. Chair Curtis,
Here.
Commissioner Andrion,
Here.
Commissioner Aquino,
Is it?
Commissioner Kushney,
Here.
Commissioner Kiguchi excused, Commissioner Kuwata,
Here.
Commissioner McAdam,
Here.
Commissioner Papalimu, excused.
I'm here.
Can we get your video on, Commissioner? Perfect. And Commissioner Takinaka.
Here.
You have quorum, Chair.
Thank you. Before we go to the approval of the minutes, I'll remind people that a public note for propriety, all comments are to be addressed to the Elections Commission Chair. Arguments and side discussion will not be tolerated. Move on to the approval of the written minutes of the March 19th meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions?
Yes, I move to amend the minutes.
With what?
Item number 5 should read, Commissioner Kushney made a motion to pursue adopting a rule in accordance with HRS 11-7.53 to require the county clerks and the chief elections officer to individually certify under penalty of perjury the chain of custody was maintained in accordance with HAR 3177-61 and HAR 3-177453, which was seconded by Commissioner Papalimu. The motion carried.
That was where in the minutes?
Item number 5, it should say individually certified is what's missing. It was captured in the
Okay.
the summary,
And there
but not in the written minutes.
There a second to that change?
Second.
Discussion? I don't see any objection to that, but all those in favor of changing that verbiage per Commissioner Kushney's recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the amended minutes?
So moved. This is Commissioner Andrion.
I second the motion.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Public testimony. Any interested person may submit comments or testimony on any agenda item. Ned, could you handle that?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you.
If you would like to testify, please click raise hand under reactions on Zoom. If you're joining us by phone, press *9. When recognized, please unmute your microphone before speaking. You may also turn on your video at this time. For the record, please state your first and last name and the items you will be testifying on. To ensure that we will have sufficient time to hear all testimony, each testifier will have 3 minutes to testify. Once your time has expired, you will be asked to conclude your remarks. The first testifier is Andy Crossland, followed by Jamie Detweiler. Andy Crossland?
Yes, I'm here. Aloha Commission. I'll be testifying today on Agenda Item 7 regarding the Commission's powers, duties, and privileges. On April 2nd, Scott Nago, for the second time, defied the Commission, the advice of the Commission, and submitted testimony to the legislature in support of SB 2240, which would enroll Hawaii and ERIC. For anyone who is unaware of the arrogant disdain that Scott Nago has for the members of this Commission, I will now show a short 1-minute video of the committee hearing for SB 2240.
Mr. Nago, it's rather surprising to see that your board of directors or those that hire and fire, employees and otherwise, are opposed to this. Commission took up a position to not support Eric. That is not the position of the office.
We took a vote on it and it did not pass. The State Elections Commission is not supportive of this bill.
You have no sense of disparity between you being their employee and what they've said for you to do, you're not doing. They advise you. Yes.
I'm puzzled because there's so much opposition to this. You're the only one saying it's good. And I Googled it real quickly and I don't see anything positive coming out from what I read.
So I have some questions for the commission. Is this the kind of behavior that you expect from your employee who you recently reappointed and gave a pay raise? Is it humiliating and insulting to you that Scott Nago would continue to thumb his nose at the commission? Would any reasonable employer allow this level of contempt for their employee to continue? When is the Elections Commission going to start acting like the boss and hold their employee accountable? I've created a graphic that you can now see in my background, and it shows the hierarchy associated with the Elections Commission, the Chief Election Officer, and the Office of Elections, with references to Hawaii revised statutes that support this information. Obviously, at the top of the hierarchy, we have we the people who vote the legislators into office that appoint the members of this commission. Then under that, we have the Elections Commission, who appoints, employs, advises, and evaluates the Chief Election Officer. Next, we have the Chief Election Officer, who is an at-will employee of the Elections Commission. Below that is the Office of Elections, which provides support and staff to the Chief Election Officer. Lastly, the Chief Election Officer has the option, but not the obligation, to delegate responsibilities to the county clerks, which he must oversee and direct. I want to make it clear to all the members of the commission that you are being deceived by anybody who has convinced you that you do not have authority over the Chief Election Officer, the Office of Elections, and the county clerks in administering our elections in Hawaii. Hold Scott Nago accountable now, or you will continue to embarrass yourselves and be used as pawns. That is all. I yield.
Thank you, Andy.
Next testifier is Jamie Detweiler, followed by Rosemary Chausch.
Aloha, Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to testify. During the last Elections Commission's meeting, I was asked by Chair Curtis to provide my documents on the letters that I sent by certified mail in November of the year 2022. As of today, I have not gotten a response to my certified letters. So I followed up on Chair Curtis's request to send that documentation to the Office of Elections and to the Commission. I sent it out on March 19th, and I received a confirmation from Ms. Nedlin, and I still have not gotten a response to my request on that letter. Specifically, I was asking for compliance of HRS 16-42. And to make it even more specific, I specified for District 37. That is the district I ran in. While I didn't fall within less than 100 votes difference from my opponent, there were some discrepancies that I outlined in my letter. And part of those discrepancies has to do with ballot security, which is also item number 6 on today's agenda. I've testified numerous times in the past 2 years on all of these issues, ballot security issues, on the ERIC issue during the last commission's meeting, and I still have not gotten a response. So my question to the commission today is, by listing my correspondence on today's agenda, is that what you're counting as a correspondence back to me? And when will I get an answer to this question? I yield.
Thank you, Ms. Detweiler.
Next testifier is Rosemary Chausch, followed by Cynthia Cho.
Thanks, Chair, Commissioners, testifiers. concerned citizens. This is a matter of public record. I'm going to testify today on my previously submitted written communications to the Office of Elections dated February 21st. That was regarding the reappointment hearings. The question was posed during that meeting, who would replace Scott Nago if he were not reappointed for any reason? Who would fulfill the duties of the chief election officer in the event that he was not able to perform his duties? Is there anyone trained to step in? And I asked about the timing of the reappointment, and should this evaluation have been conducted? My written testimony for this meeting, I requested that it be answered in the public forum. Did Scott Nago's contract expire? That was my first question for this meeting. Second question, did he formally petition the commission for reappointment? An expired appointment should not have been a reappointment consideration. Candidates should have been interviewed. The CEO position would be elected from finalists by the commission, as was the case with Chief Election Officer Dwayne Yoshida, who stayed on as an interim Chief Elections Officer after rescinding his petition for reappointment until a nationwide search could be conducted for his replacement. There were 3 finalists. Scott Nago was one of the candidates, and Kevin Cronin was elected at that time. I'm requesting the commission's answers to my above questions to be given during the public session of April 16th meeting. And the last item is last meeting, I was not able to be recognized because I'd already given some oral testimony. I was looking for clarification that members of the CCP are involved in election information technologies. And I would request that the commission verify or deny that testimony also in the public session of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shelps.
Next testifier is Cynthia Joe, followed by Joshua Gandy.
Aloha. All right. This is regarding oaths of office. I have been observing these election commission meetings for a few months now, and there is obviously something that is not right. I want to share information that you, the commissioners, may not be aware of. There is a presidential executive order 13848, and from what I can tell, it is still active. And the title of that executive order is National Emergency with respect to foreign interference in or undermining public confidence in United States elections. And in that executive order, Section 8, letter F, they define foreign interference with, so it says the term foreign interference with respect to an election includes any covert, fraudulent, deceptive, or unlawful actions or attempted actions of a foreign government or of any person acting as an agent of or on behalf of a foreign government, undertaken with the purpose or effect of influencing, undermining, confidence in or altering the results or reported result of the election, or undermining public confidence in election processes or institutions. The penalties for these election crimes will be individuals will have their property or finances blocked or seized. And I mentioned this executive order 13848 because there is something fishy about the way that Commissioners McAdam, Kuwata, Takinaka, Kikuchi, and Curtis vote on all the issues. My observation is that the 5 of you do not vote on issues by the legislation that binds you, or the will of the people, or the constitutions. All of you took an oath of office to uphold the Hawaii State Constitution and the United States Constitution. I have all of your oaths of office. I got them from the election office last week. So what I'm trying to puzzle out is what or who is influencing the votes of you 5 commissioners. I'm trying to puzzle out. Do they have handlers telling them what to say and how to vote? Have they accepted money or gifts in exchange for their votes? Are they engaging with foreign entities to undermine public confidence in election processes and in our state and in our nation? So, for you 5 commissioners, McAdam, Kuwata, Takinaka, Kikuchi, and Curtis, as well as Scott Nago and Moana Ludi and others interfering with the people's election, there are elections, not yours, I leave you with a definition from Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition: malfeasance, evil doing, ill conduct, the commission of some act which is positively unlawful. A comprehensive term including any wrongful conduct that affects, interprets, or interferes with the performance of official duties. And finally, I end with 2 maxims of law regarding oaths of office. The first one is, an oath is indivisible. It is not to be held partly true and partly false. You can't take an oath and decide which part of the oath you're going to keep up. Your oaths say that you will faithfully perform your duties. I don't see the 5 of you faithfully performing your duties under the legislation that binds you. And finally, last maxim of law, punishment is due if the words of an oath be false. And that also is from Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. I yield. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next testifier is Joshua Gandy, followed by Kalina Campbell.
Yes. Hello, Commission. I think this falls under agenda item number 8 in the business. This isn't a public testimony.
Thank you.
Next testifier is Kalina Campbell, followed by Doug Pasnick. Kalina Campbell. Okay, we'll move on to Doug Pasnick, followed by Thomas Stanton.
Hey, Mr. Curtis, can you hear me?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. You know, the elections infrastructure has been deemed critical infrastructure, and during the February 20th Elections Commission meeting, the commission voted and you stated that the commission is opposed to Eric, and that was seemingly a good move by the Elections Commission. You know, and Andy presented very well, that 3 weeks later during the March 15th House Committee on Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs, Mr. Nago testified in support of Eric and counter to the Elections Commission February vote. During that meeting, Mr. Nago told Chair Tarnas that he doesn't have to listen to the Elections Commission and that they only advise him, and he chose not to agree with them in this case. Commissioner Cushney testified against Eric at that same meeting, but the Elections Commission did not submit any testimony in opposition to Eric, and to which you stated that the commission's position was public information. So what's the purpose of public information of this commission if it doesn't have any impact on the chief election officer and what he chooses to support? You may recall Commissioner Papalima was quite frustrated with your lack of attention to detail and the insubordination displayed by Mr. Nago to the House committee, which was all discussed during the March 19th Elections Commission meeting. 2 weeks later, Mr. Nago then testified again in front of the House Committee on Finance. Commissioner Papalima also testified, and after a lengthy discussion, she reiterated that the Elections Commission did not support Eric. Have you seen the testimony from Senator Ward? I think you did with Andy's presentation, but it was very interesting that he asked Mr. Nago point blank that it was surprising to see that the board of directors or the Elections Commission that has the power to hire and fire and give a raise or otherwise can oppose Eric, and that he was acting opposite of what they were recommending to do, that he was recommended to do. And what your advisors, what he said is what your advisors have told you was that you're doing has no sense of disparity between you being their employee and what they said for him to do and what he is doing, to which he smugly said, they advised me, and Ward questioned that. They advise you? And he said, yes. Mr. Curtis, what do you expect an employee to do when you advise them to do something? If you were watching that testimony, it was apparent that Representative Ward knows and was shocked by Mr. Nago's position in open public defiance to your leadership as chair of the Elections Commission. Mr. Curtis, Mr. Nago just blew you off in front of 2 House committees and made a mockery of your Elections Commission, and that's part of the public record. Is the Elections Commission going to do, again, consent to Mr. Nago's blatant insubordination and through his testimony twice to the Hawaii House Committee against the advice that you gave him? During the March Executive Commission meeting, there was a 5-to-1 testimony against his reappointment, but you reappointed him anyhow after you had 3 failed votes. And contrary to what you believe, advise is a verb and it commands action. The Elections Commission has the power to hire, fire, reappoint, and remove the chief elections officer. Mr. Nago knows that, and by your 4th vote to reappoint him, he was only 1 vote away from being removed. Commissioners, this commission's a sham. It's apparent, as Representative Ward recognized, Mr. Nago is running the show. Please step up and do your job, or move aside and let someone else lead. And with that, I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Pasnick. I'll address it after everybody talks.
Next testifier is Thomas Stanton, followed by Anne-Marie Hamilton.
Aloha, Commissioners. Tom Stanton, Kauai Election Integrity. I'm here to address item 5, communications and correspondence. This is to formally state to both the Office of Elections and the Elections Commission Kauai County's intent to request and perform manual audits per HAR 3-177-762 and HRS 1642 in the upcoming primary and general elections for the post-election audits. It's important to note that in 2022, Kauai County was allowed to perform this audit in the general election. Kauai official observers were requested and were allowed to perform a full 10% paper ballot audit per HRS 1642 of our paper ballots for 2 races. This was facilitated by the Office of Elections, and it was easily done, and it allowed for some confidence in the manual tabulation, or the computer tabulations of the 2 races that were audited. The reason Kauai was able to do this was because at the beginning of counting, our official observers requested that our ballots be kept sorted by precinct when they were opened and then boxed and then sent to the counting machines. That allowed the post-election audit to be done seamlessly by just randomly choosing our 2 precincts, pulling them out, and auditing them. Because Kauai was allowed to do this audit and it was facilitated by the Office of Elections, it is my opinion that every county, that set a precedent for every county to be able to do these same audits. And if those audits are not allowed to be done, then that would be discriminatory to the other counties of Hawaii. Let's see. I think I just wanted to reiterate these audits were easily done. They were facilitated by the Office of Elections, and our intent is that those audits will be done again in the upcoming elections, with the caveat that we will be auditing all the races, not just the 2 races that were allowed in the previous election. So with that, I yield. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stain.
Next testifier is Anne Marie Hamilton, followed by Hui Ho'ola Aina.
Hello, my name is Anne Marie Hamilton. I'm a concerned voter from Kauai. Chain of custody, and I'm on ballot security. I'm talking about ballot security. Chain of custody is an election law. Election laws must be followed or you cannot certify the election, period. If you do certify an election where election laws are not followed, you have committed fraud. And the entire election is fraudulent and must be thrown out. And the entire election redone, where the law is followed and it is verified that it is followed. This might seem drastic, this might seem very inconvenient, but the fact is our entire representational and constitutional republic depends on election laws being followed, or we do not have a representational government, period. We are slaves who have no voice in our representation. We don't have an election, we have a selection. And many people in this state and in this country feel that is where we are now. That is why Hawaii is in last place in the nation for the citizens having confidence that their votes are being counted. Let me repeat, Hawaii is last place in the nation for election confidence. This fact should concern this body, since their entire job is ensuring Hawaiian citizens have confidence in their elections. Since the citizens of this state don't have any confidence in their elections, this body is not doing its job, period. Anyone that has voted on this committee not to investigate the concerns of the citizens that testify month after month should resign immediately and allow someone else better qualified to take their place. I yield.
Thank you, Anne Marie.
Next testifier is Hui Ho'ola Aina, followed by Wendell Alento.
Aloha, Chair and Commissioners. I'm back. And, it's getting real irritating to see how you guys are handling this election system. Number one, I'm from the Big Island, so know this. To Commissioner McAdams, you do not speak for me and about 200 people that I talked to when you said you speak for the people on the Big Island. You don't. Okay? You're corrupted. You're part of Mitch Roth and Josh Green's administration. You're not even from here. And you're trying to make decisions for us. Keep your comments to yourself. Because when this all go down the wrong way, we coming to sue you, McAdams. Yeah? This is what I'm talking about when I talk about organized crimes. Right? Chair, you the head of the organized crime, right now. I don't care if private or public. You are responsible for all your corrupted actions, like the other Japanese commissioners that is on here, that is always voting the wrong way, right? The Japanese and the Haoles that is on this commission, right? Wake up. Here's what I got to say. Security, yeah? Number one, the county and state is two different governments. Our county ballot shouldn't be on the same ballot as the state. So I sent you guys a letter saying that on the next agenda item, on the next agenda for next month, this needs to be talked about and clarified. We, the people of Hawaii County, and I don't care what Miss McAdams says, because she's not speaking for us. She does not know how it is to be a local here. She does not even speak clear English. She does not speak for the Big Island, but here's how we want it here. We don't want our ballot on the state's ballot because it's unconstitutional. That's two different governments. Get it? I hope you get it, Chair. Understand that we don't like you guys' help because you guys are corrupted. Okay? We don't need your guys' assistance. We have our own election office. Our elections office shouldn't be touching the state's election ballots. Your guys' election office at the state level shouldn't be touching our county ballots. Make it straight. Get it straight. We don't want our ballots to leave our island. We want to have custody of our ballots at all times. This is BS. This whole system, nobody voted for you guys. You guys shouldn't be making decisions for us. The state of Hawaii is not part of the United States. There's an article that came up in the March 30th. Read it. CNN put it out there. We are not part of the NATO agreement, the treaty. Okay? There's nothing that the military that is here can do for us if somebody wanted war here. Understand, the state of Hawaii is in a foreign country. Understand that. I yield.
Thank you, sir.
Next testifier is Wendell Alento.
You're muted. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and commissioners. I just want to bring up just a pattern. I just want to talk about the duties of the Elections Commission. And number one, it says hold hearings, hold public hearings. Number two is investigate and hold hearings for receiving evidence of any violations and complaints. Then it says 3, adopt rules pursuant to Chapter 91. And then 4, we can skip 4. And then 5 says conduct a performance evaluation of the chief election officer within 2 months after the date a general election is certified. And then 6, hold a public hearing on the performance of the chief election officer and consider the information gathered at the hearing in deliberations on the chief elections officer's reappointment, and then advise the chief election officer on matters relating to elections. So I've attended 4 meetings. I apologize I haven't been more attentive to the meetings, but of the 4 meetings I've attended, there is you could actually say that the real duties of the Elections Commission is we try our best not to hold public hearings. Number 2 is we try not to investigate and hold hearings for any evidence of violations. So it's the negative form of these duties, and so there's a hesitance to do any kind of evaluation, especially on the chief election officer, and to even do a public hearing of the chief election officer. That's like the kiss of death or something. But I just want to bring up these things because when I look at the duties, we try to advise the chief election officer and we got spit on. But when you look at all of this, and as a regular person, I'm just looking at this as we're really not doing the duties of Election Commission. We should be holding public hearings. We should be investigating any violation. That any means any, okay, whether you agree with it or not, we should investigate because people brought it up. People on the ground, regular people have concerns. So I just want to share that because the tendency, part of my testimony I submitted is the amount of grief that Commissioner Cushney received just to bring a motion to the floor. Eventually, it was voted against, but it took 5 attempts to bring a motion to postpone the decision to reappoint Mr. Nago in favor of holding a hearing, a public hearing. Mr. Chair, I know you mentioned that, yes, we could have a meeting for the group and then taking it into executive hearing. But I think in a bigger picture, we should have a public hearing because this is a charged matter and people are really seeing that. I think Christopher, the last person shared that we're the last in the nation. We're actually worse than the last. It's the 51st. We place 51st behind DC as the most as far as election integrity, it's the worst. And so I just want to share that the way to turn this thing around is to simply do the duties of the Election Commission, hold hearings, investigate violations as any of them, and to hold up hearing, and that's not even a voting matter. We should just do the hearing on the reappointment of the chief election officer, because the last motion, really, when you read our duties, the duties of the commission, you can't vote. You cannot vote not to have a public hearing. This is the job of the election commission. Now you can deliberate in private. That's okay because there's sort of like a little gray area there. But you have to have a public hearing. That's not a question of not to. So I want to yield on that if you would just please look at the duties of the Election Commission, because that is what's really making a lot of us irritated, because we're asking questions and we're not getting answers. And the answers we get is the slow roll, okay? And we just want answers. That's all. Good answers, and for these investigations to go forward. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next testifier is April Lee.
Thank you, officers, and thank you for your service and responsibility to we, the most beautiful, I think we're all family. And I watched the hearings, and I have one question. Why have you not fired Scott Nago? And I yield.
Thank you. Are there any other testifiers?
Chair, there are no more testifiers.
Thank you. As position of chair, I'd like to respond to a couple of those. Eric is something that we don't trust, but that management does, and that's you want to clean the voter rolls. That's what Eric attempts to do by cross-referencing voters registered in every state and district.
Chair Curtis, we are management. That's what they're saying. We are the managers of Mr. Nago. And that's what the public is saying.
He's not an employee. He's
He's
our appointee, not our employee. He's not employed by the Elections Commission. He's appointed by the Elections Commission. And the Election Commission is...
I'll read to you. The Chief Elections Officer is an at-will employee. The Elections Commissions shall provide written notification.
Thank you.
Any removal.
We disagree. We'll agree to disagree. The formal petition.
It's in the statute.
Asked for us. And Cynthia Joe talked about foreign intelligence. Our logic determines our vote. There are 9 members here. Each have different opinions and each experiences. This is public testimony. Eric, again, Representative Ward did see that the commission opposed the use of Eric and challenged Mr. Nago on it. Mr. Nago correctly responded that we're advisory, not dictatorial. It's his choice. He's our manager. He runs the place. Audits by precinct, Mr. Stanton. I agree 100%. And we'll see what we can do about it the next election. Chain of custody ballot security is one of the next thing on the agenda. Ballots are discrete by district, and national races, state races, and district races require different ballots for each one, and that's one of the responsibilities of Mr. Nago. Investigate hearings. Integrity is a matter of perception. There's no quantitative measures on that one. We'll be discussing that later today. Again, it's Mr. Nago. He's an employee of the state, and we're here to advise him and to challenge anything that we've perceived to be illegal or inappropriate, and we've been doing that. We'll continue to do that. Let's see, what's up next on the agenda?
Chair, this is Commissioner Andreon.
Yes.
Before we close public testimony, I noticed there are a few hands still raised on the Zoom. I wonder if we could go back to them.
Ned, are there any other testifiers?
Yes, Chair. We do have hands raised. Those hands went up after you closed public testimony, so
then we'll have to wait for next meeting. Let's see where we're at now. Documented ballot security or ballot security. Wait a minute. Public testimony is done. Communications and correspondence. There are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do any commissioners have comments on the communications and correspondence?
Sure, I do.
Okay, go for it, Ralph.
Okay, so I put a motion in the March meeting to postpone the discussion of my elections complaint, and it passed 9-1 that we would postpone the discussion of my complaint after the elections office replied to my complaint. So I'd like to go through each of those items as I requested to you in an email that I sent. So starting with item number 1, chain of custody.
I want to stop you right here, first of all, because some of your letters have demanded response within 7 days from the Office of Elections.
So I'll read you the motion that passed 9-0.
You can't demand the stuff that you don't have the authority over.
Chair Curtis, I'll read you the motion that passed 9-0. I move that the Elections Commission direct the Office of Elections to answer the formal complaint in writing by 7 days prior to the March meeting and postpone the consideration of this matter to the March meeting. It was never discussed in the March meeting. It passed 9-0 that we were going to discuss this matter. And here we are. This is the meeting that we're going to discuss it in.
Okay, we'll discuss it this meeting, yeah.
Okay. So item number 1 was on chain of custody. The counties have not provided us any chain of custody documentation for receiving ballots at the ballot box. And there's more to it than that, but we don't have any documentation. And on the website, it says, how do we know elections officials don't throw away our ballots? We have no way of knowing that if we don't have chain of custody. Like one of the testifiers said, I think it was Anne Marie, she said, chain of custody is the law. And if we're not following the law, then you reduce the trust in the public. So I move to request ballot box chain of custody procedures and documentation from the counties.
You've received 500 and some pages from the...
we have not specifically asked that, and they have not provided any ballot box chain of custody. So I make a motion to request. So what I want to do is show that the counties do not have chain of custody for the ballot boxes. There's supposed to be 2 observers there. There's a procedure. Kauai has a great procedure. They have a form that's supposed to be filled out, but they don't do it. The other counties didn't even talk about it. So I move to request ballot box chain of custody procedures and documentation from the counties. Do I have a second?
Second, this is Commissioner Andreon.
Okay, discussion. Could you repeat the motion? Ned, could you repeat the motion as you heard it?
Move to request ballot box chain of custody procedures from the county elections office.
chain of custody procedures and documentation from the counties.
And that's been seconded. Discussion.
Yes, I'd like to start the discussion.
Okay.
So this is bigger than that, but I want to start somewhere to show the rest of the commissioners that the laws are not being followed. This is a simple procedure. I put in written testimony, and I encourage the rest of the commissioners to look at the written testimony. And I submitted Kauai County's chain of collections procedures for getting ballots at ballot boxes. They describe the whole procedure, and there's a form that should be filled out. Unfortunately, they don't do it. None of the other counties are doing it. Nobody has produced any information, any documentation that that's being done. So I'd like to start with this simple step to show that the law is not being followed, and you cannot certify the election if you don't have chain of custody documentation.
Other discussion?
More discussion in favor if you'll entertain it.
Sure. That's what discussion.
I just didn't know if you want to alternate favor and oppose, but I just feel like this is a very basic thing, and I appreciate Commissioner Cushney introducing something to take some basic steps here. I think the public would agree that this is a great motion and something that should, I can't imagine why someone would oppose this motion. It's something that should already be in place, and if the counties are doing their job as they said they have, then it's something that can be produced. So unless there's something to hide here, there's just no reason to oppose it. And so I think that's why there is no discussion for opposition. So looking forward to voting on the motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I had hoped this discussion would come under item 6 with documented ballot security, but it's welcome here. Any other discussion on the motion?
Yes, am I heard? Can somebody hear me?
Yep, we can all hear you.
Okay, thank you. This is Commissioner Papalimu. I support this because I not only have questions about ballot box chain of custody. There is no chain of custody because we are allowing people to put their ballots into a mailbox, which is then has zero custody until it shows up somewhere. And there is no telling what could happen then. That's why it was so important to be able to go to your precinct and see that your ballot went into the box, see that your ballot went into the machine. All we see now is ballots going into mailboxes and 4 days later, 3 days later, maybe 7 days later, popping up somewhere or not popping up anywhere at all. There is no sense of chain of custody with mail-in voting. And so I do support this. And I'm glad we're making a motion on it, although I don't think any of our motions really change anything, but I'm glad to see us doing it publicly.
Thank you. I think for mail-in balloting, I think you'd have to change the law to change it. And
we're going there.
The sentiment.
Yeah.
We'll see. Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? Are all the commissioners clear on the motion, ready to vote? Ned, could you do a roll call, please?
Mr. Chair, can you repeat the motion?
Thank you. Ned, please.
The motion is to request ballot box chain of custody procedures and documentation from the County Elections Division.
Is that clear, Cynthia?
Yes and no. So, I'm sorry. What is it now? If this motion passes, is there something different that the counties will have to do?
Showing the process and then evidence of following the process.
There's a law in the books that requires this, and I'm just trying to show that it's not being done. And if we request this specific information and they cannot produce it, then that just shows you as a commissioner that they are not following the law.
I look forward to this motion passing and proving Ralph wrong. Is there any other discussion? So Ned, roll call, please.
Commissioner Andrion,
Aye.
Commissioner Aquino,
Aye.
Commissioner Kushney,
Aye.
Commissioner Kikuchi, excused, Commissioner Kawada,
No.
Commissioner McAdam,
Aye.
Commissioner Papalimu,
Aye.
Commissioner Takenaka,
No.
Chair Curtis.
Aye. Motion passes. Other discussion on the communications and correspondence.
Yes, Chair, I'd like to discuss item number 2.
What item number 2 is that? On your
It's
letter?
It's on the response and the complaint.
Okay.
So item number 2 has to do with post-election audits. And the long and the short of it is that there was complaints that the law was not being followed. HRS 1642B3 says that 10% of the precincts would be randomly picked and that the paper ballots would be hand counted and the tallies would be compared to the electronic tallies. Now, I filed a complaint in 2022. It was dismissed by the court, but not adjudicated. After that, the Office of Elections has tried to change the law to allow ballot images. The paper ballot is the voter verifiable paper audit trail that is the only thing that the voter has verified. The voter has not verified the ballot images. So I move to advise the Chief Elections Officer to use the voter verifiable paper audit trail to conduct all audits.
There a second?
Do I have a second?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the motion?
I move to advise the Chief Elections Officer to use the voter verifiable paper audit trail to conduct all audits.
I'll second the motion.
I'll second that.
Don't fight over it.
I guess you didn't hear me.
Ms. Papalimo, you came second for the second. So it's moved by Ralph, and who seconded that, Ned?
Always that Commissioner Aquino.
Thank you. Discussion.
Yes, Chair, I'd like to start the discussion.
Go for it.
Okay, HRS 11-1.6 discusses the appointment of the Chief Elections Officer. The Chief Elections Officer is an at-will employee. The Elections Commission shall provide written notification of any removal and state the reason for removal. That means that the commission is the boss. So when we advise the Chief Elections Officer,
the motion is to advise the
that I just started onto that. I'm continuing onto that. I have 10 minutes. I'm not going to take that long, but let me talk.
You got 3 minutes for discussions.
I move to advise. So the word advise means that we can tell him what to do. And if we don't like if he doesn't follow us, we can remove him, because on number G, the Chief Elections Officer is an at-will employee, which means he can choose not to follow our advice, but we can remove him if he does that. So that's all I have. Thank you.
As he did with Eric. Thank you. Other discussion? Yes.
Chair?
Yes.
More discussion in favor, just to support this. I mean, a paper trail is probably the best way to keep things integrous. And I know we're all familiar with the attempt to change the language of HRS 1642B from that to ballot images. So I think this, again, is just something very basic, foundational, and should already be in place. I'm in favor. I was really surprised to hear no votes on the last motion. So if there's other of my colleagues that are in opposition, I mean, let's discuss this, right?
Please,
let's not
please address your comments.
And that's part of my Yes, Chair. So I would just ask if you could alternate between favor and opposition, because I mean, I want to make an informed decision with all of our colleagues, but I don't think it's good if there's surprise no votes on a motion. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Anybody against the motion? Would like to comment? Any others in favor of the motion would like to comment? Ned, could you reread the motion, please?
The motion is to move to advise Chief Election Officer to use voter verifiable paper audit trail to conduct all audits. And it was seconded by Commissioner Aquino.
Any more discussion? Could you do a roll call, Ned, please, on this?
Yes, Chair. Commissioner Andrion?
Aye.
Commissioner Aquino?
Aye.
Commissioner Cushney?
Aye.
Commissioner Kiguchi excused. Commissioner Kuwata?
No.
Commissioner McAdams?
No.
Commissioner Papalimu?
Aye.
Commissioner Takenaka?
You're there.
Yep, sorry, no.
And Chair Curtis?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Other discussion on the communications and correspondence?
Yes, Chair. I'd like to discuss number 3.
What number 3 is this?
This is on the same item, number 3.
And that's your April 6th correspondence?
This is a response from the Office of Elections and my correspondence. Same item.
Okay.
So the pre-election audit procedures, aka logic and accuracy tests. The logic and accuracy tests, if you read in the online question and answer, it says, how do we know elections equipment is not hacked? And it basically says that we have observers off the street verify that the election commission equipment is running properly by filling out 25 ballots. So my motion is I move to have the state chief information officer review pre-election audit and safety procedures and report to the commission the effectiveness of the procedures to identify hacking or mistakes in the voting system.
There a second? Dies for lack of a second. Next.
Fellow commissioners, we need to second these, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted.
Okay, then it's been moved and seconded by Commissioner Papalimu. Could you state the motion again, Ned? Or if Ralph could do it.
Yeah, I'll read it again. I move to have the state chief information officer review pre-election audit and safety procedures and report to the commission the effectiveness of the procedures to identify if hacking or mistakes in the voting system have occurred.
That was seconded by Commissioner Papalimu. Discussion.
Yes, Chair, I'd like to start.
Go for it.
So all I'm asking is for a third party or in-house state person. Right now, the only IT person looking at the Hart InterCivic equipment is Hart InterCivic itself. So I'm asking that the Elections Commission ask the Chief Information Officer, who is IT security specialist, to review our policies and procedures to see if it's adequate to prevent hacking or fraud or what have you.
I have a
Mr.
question.
Chair, I have a question.
Yeah, me too.
Yes, please.
Anybody contacted the chief information officer about this and get a read from him?
Not yet. If it passes, it will get a response from him.
Can I also ask a question? I don't know where Commissioner Cushney has his information from, and I'm just asking a question, but How do you understand that the only IT professionals looking at this are from Hart? Sorry, I don't. Do we have any confirmation that's actually accurate?
Just ask Mr. Nago.
Well, have you asked Mr. Nago?
Yes, I
Mr.
have.
Chair, Mr. Chair,
Cynthia,
I wouldn't mind, not I wouldn't mind. I'd like to request we move this to the next meeting and somebody talk to the CIO and get his or her opinion on whether, the feasibility of this. I mean, I don't know how that office works. So, I mean, to say to do this and then he or she comes back and says, whatever. So I would rather somebody chat with that office before we do the vote. Thank you.
thanks, Cynthia. Anybody else opposed to the motion want to comment? Anybody in favor of the motion care to comment?
Chair, this is Commissioner Andrion.
Hi, Dylan.
I think I am in favor of the motion. I just wanted to clarify, is the motion to direct the CIO or just for the request to come from the commission? So the chair would, like what Cynthia said, make the request, contact them and ask for feedback. Is that what your motion is, Commissioner Kushni?
Correct. We need some kind of a outside look at what we're doing. I'm not an IT person. We need somebody to look at our procedures and say, yes, these are sound procedures, and.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the motion. Any other discussion in favor?
And I would just respond to my colleague, Commissioner McAdams. It was our September.
Everything should be addressed to the chair. If you're making a comment, please make a comment.
For the chair, it was in our September or August meeting that Mr. Nago expressed about that Hart Civic being the party that was in charge of all that and overlooking that, and no one from our departments.
Thank you. Without further discussion, I would ask Ned for a roll call.
Commissioner Andrion?
Aye.
Commissioner Aquino?
Aye.
Commissioner Kushni?
Aye.
Commissioner Guguchi, excused. Commissioner Kawada?
Sorry, that's a no.
Thank you. Commissioner McAdams?
No.
Commissioner Papalimu?
Aye.
Commissioner Takenaka?
No.
Chair Curtis?
Aye. Let's find out what's going on. Continuing on the discussion of the communications and correspondence.
Chair, could I motion for a 5-minute recess, please?
You can move for it, but does anybody object to a 5-minute recess? Then we'll take a 5-minute recess starting, let's see, at 2:33. We'll be back at 2:40, please.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Chair.
Welcome. Hey, Ned, if you're listening, do you have a countdown timer that could give us that?
Chair, let me check on that.
Thanks. Another, like a 4.5 minute timer, a 5 minute timer to 2:40, please.
Okay.
Chair Curtis, can
Thank
I
you.
pose a question to you, even though we're in recess?
Sure.
While testimonies were being shared, many hands were raised. Why were they not recognized?
According to the secretary, the raised hands were after we closed the public discussion.
No,
So
according to my observations, there were hands being raised while testimonies were being shared.
there were hands being raised. The raised hands that weren't heard were raised after the end of testimony, according to staff. I'll have to honor that.
Maybe we have to have staff be more observant, because I did see hands go up while testimonies were being shared.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Chair, with that, I'd like to remind you of 92-3, where you cannot only hold the testifiers to the beginning of the meeting. I sent you that statute that you need to allow them to testify during the meeting also.
Thank you.
It's HRS 92-3.
Got a 20-second warning. So we'll come back to order after our recess. And do we have a motion on the floor or anything?
We're still on item number 1, Chair.
I thought you were item number 6.
We're on item number 1 and item number 4. I'd like to start with that, with number 4, please.
What's number 4? Number 4 of what?
It's of the Office of Elections response.
That's the March 13th letter?
Correct, the one that's on the agenda.
Okay.
So item number 4. The Office of Elections said that there were no major discrepancies in 2020. And I just want for the record that there were major discrepancies for 2020. On Kauai, there was a 3,379 ballot count difference between the County of Kauai's numbers and the Office of Elections numbers. When asked about it, Mr. Nago said that the difference was between the in-person voting. That is not true. We have never reconciled why there was a difference. The chain of custody forms were not filled out, but there was a summary. Another discrepancy was in the audits. If you look at the written testimony that I provided, look at the forms for Oahu. The audits were signed, but nothing was filled out on the form. So they're blank forms that were signed, which tells me that they were just passing around pieces of paper to people to sign, and they never bothered to fill them in. That's a huge discrepancy. And then the audit form on Kauai was done by Oahu employees. Nobody from Kauai participated in the audit in 2020. Those are just 3 examples that I have quickly researched that were discrepancies for the 2020 election. I'd like to move to item number 5, if nobody has objections.
Okay.
Item number 5 talks about complying with HAVA. I move to investigate if there are any HAVA violations being committed by the Office of Elections. Is there a second?
There wasn't a motion, there was a request for information.
I move to investigate if there are any HAVA violations being committed by the Office of Elections.
Second is Commissioner Andrew.
Discussion.
Yes, Chair, I'd like to start, please.
Go ahead.
Okay, in particular, I would like to look into ERIC and see if it complies with HAVA. But we need to research it. We're taking federal money, and if we just need to make sure we're not violating any of the HAVA acts.
Is there anybody opposed? Any other discussion in favor?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to strongly, again, this is not, I feel like we're in this weird place of either you're for or against on each and every one of these issues, but this can be a issue we all get behind. I mean, I think there's reasonable evidence or suspicion behind a UBI correlating with someone's private information. So again, I don't see why anyone would be opposed to this. I think this is a good motion just to see and make sure that we're not, you know, there's not personal information being released and linked to the UBI. So if there is opposition to this, Chair, I would love to hear it before we take the vote.
UBI, what is that?
Unique ballot identifier. We
Okay.
should all know.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Papalimu.
Ralph, what did you say that was HAVA in your motion?
It's a federal act regarding America Vote.
What's it called?
Help America Vote Act.
Oh, okay. So we're trying to make sure that ERIC is not in violation.
Well, we haven't. The thing is, we haven't contracted ERIC, but it would be one of the arguments against it potentially.
Yeah, I didn't understand. I think I'm having difficulty on this. I didn't understand how the election commissioner or officer could give up access to DMV records, because that does not, DMV records do not fall under the election office. And so I think that's why I was having so much trouble with that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for the clarification.
Welcome. Ned, could you reread the motion, please?
Yes, Chair. The motion is to investigate if there are any HAVA violations being committed by the Office of Elections, and seconded by Commissioner Andrian.
And that's kind of a big net to throw without any evidence, is my opinion. Are there any other discussion?
I have a question. So who's going to do this?
So we could form a committee.
It would be the Elections Commission. That the motion was to investigate, which is within our authority. The investigation that Ralph outlined is kind of all-encompassing of doing every aspect of the HAVA Act to see if we're in compliance. If we're not in compliance, that's where I would look for evidence and pursue an investigation personally. But this is a commission motion in front of us. So could you read the motion again one more time, please?
The motion is to investigate if there are any HAVA violations being committed by the Office of Elections, seconded by Commissioner Andrews.
And this is in relation to Eric, correct?
No, HAVA.
That would be one of the items on there.
Okay.
Eric would be one of the items to look into.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Andrian?
Aye.
Commissioner Aquino?
Aye.
Commissioner Kushney?
Aye.
Commissioner Kikuchi, excused. Commissioner Kuwata?
No.
Commissioner McAdam?
No.
Commissioner Papalimu?
Aye.
Commissioner Takinaka?
No.
Chair Curtis?
No. Next comment on commission communications and correspondence.
Chair,
Yes.
this is Stella. Can I ask Commissioner Papalimu to turn on her camera, please?
Thank you. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Was that a 4-4?
Yes, it was. No, yes, it was. The motion.
So the motion carried? Or
No.
the motion?
The motion died.
Okay. I didn't hear that part, so I just wanted to clarify. Thank
Sorry.
you.
Sorry, my fault on that one. Any other discussion on communications and correspondence?
Yes, Chair. Number 6, please.
Number 6 of the communication from the Office of Elections?
Correct.
Okay. Official observer may conduct their own audit.
Chair, I move to advise Scott Nago to report back to the commission before the next meeting on how he will implement the audit request by citizens in accordance with HAR 3-177762A3.
Why don't we just ask him right here? Scott, are you available to answer that? Scott Nago, hello.
Yes. So we're working on procedures currently. So official observers can request to conduct their own audit. We are working on procedures to facilitate that.
So it's specifically the procedures that the public wrote in for?
Yes. So basically we would have parameters like the ballots can't leave our custody, things like that.
Okay, so you'll be able to do that by the next meeting?
We can give you the procedures or the parameters for it, yes.
Excellent, thank you.
So, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So will these procedures be implemented for the elections later this year?
That's the intent of the chief elections officer, yes. Any other discussion on communications and correspondence?
Yes, Chair, number 8.
Okay.
Number 8 discusses early counting. I move to eliminate early counting of ballots.
Is there a second? Dies for lack of a second. Additional discussion.
Chair, early counting, the answer is out there, and that could be given to someone, and it can be used as an advantage or a disadvantage to different candidates. And I don't think we should.
Wait. Was the motion wasn't seconded? Okay, Anita Aquino seconded it. Yeah?
Yes, I second it.
Okay, for discussion. Go ahead, Ralph.
Thank you, Chair. So early counting is allowed, but as a commission, I think we should take the stance that we should not allow early counting and advise the chief election officer that we should not be doing early counting. It exposes candidates can find out where they stand, and the state constitution calls for election day, not election month. So this may be a violation of our state constitution. And I think it's just a good practice to keep everything tight and count the ballots when they're supposed to be counted on election day.
Other discussion?
Chair, could we hear from Mr. Nago on this?
If he'd like to offer.
So first of all, this would take a statute change to. Second of all, in elections by mail, for us to count everything on one day, we would not have results until weeks after the election.
Why is that?
You're counting everything on one day rather than as they come in.
So it's
how many days do you need to count?
It depends. So the law says we can count ballots up to 10 work days, I believe it is. And we want to get results out on election night as fast as possible. That's why we process ballots early. The law also says that we cannot release results. So we do process the ballots, but we don't produce any results. So to know how somebody voted or to know what the results are, we don't have that information unless somebody is randomly keeping that in their head. There's no way to know what the results are because we do not produce results until the close of voting on election day.
Well, the results are in the computer, which means somebody has the results. And things happen. I'm just saying those results could be leaked to campaigns, who knows? But if we eliminate early voting, there's no chance that that information can get out.
Early voting or early processing?
To bring it to 2 days before election, then I would be willing to amend my motion. Or 3 days from election, and we count 3 days before. I'm willing to amend my motion for that.
Chair, I have a question for Mr. Nago.
Yes.
Mr. Nago, before the mail-in ballot voting, how were you able to timely count the results when it was all person voting?
So the results on election day were tabulated at the polling place with a precinct counter. The mail ballots that were the absentee mail ballots were processed on election day, but the numbers were not like they were for all mail voting.
The in-person voting is counted
processed in the polling place as the voter deposits their ballot into the precinct counter.
And the information is collected, it's not counted.
Well, it's processed, scanned, yes. Correct.
Processed but not released.
Correct.
But somehow the results were timely at that time. So how could
the
it
numbers you didn't have as many absentee mail ballots as you do voters for all mail voting, vote by mail voting.
All right, thank you.
So could you reread the motion, Ned?
Chair, sorry, could I ask Commissioner Kushney to reread his amended motion?
It's not amended yet.
Or, sorry, his
Original motion.
original motion.
I'm going to amend my motion.
No, you're going to reread the initial motion.
Okay,
Please.
I move to eliminate early counting of ballots.
And it was seconded. Okay. Did you want to amend that now?
Yes, I'd like to amend it.
We would entertain an amendment to the motion. Go ahead.
I move to start counting of ballots 3 days prior to the election.
There a second to the amendment?
So moved.
Okay. Dylan seconded the amendment. The motion on the amendment to be voted on is that the original motion be amended to allow for counting and processing the mailed-in ballots up to 3 days prior to the actual election. Discussion?
Just, yeah, real quick, Chair.
Sure.
This is a statute, so the motion is to advise, right?
That's all.
Or
That's
the commission to take a stance on it.
Right.
But also to continue discussion on this, I think
the amendment. We're talking about the amendment, amending it to 3 days. That limits the motion to allow for counting the pre-voted ballots up to 3 days prior to the election.
Okay, I'll say my discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes. Cynthia.
So if the law says 10 days, does the law have to be changed to 3 days?
The law will have to be changed for anything like this to go into effect. It's not up to us. We're an advisory commission. And as Mr. Nago pointed out, that to change this, it will require a law change by the legislature.
Chair, it allows, the law allows him to do it. There's no law change needed. He can decide when he's going to do it.
Another question, Chair.
Yes.
Will this be 3 calendar days or 3 business days?
Yes.
Calendar days.
3 days before the election. The election's on a Tuesday, so you can count on Sunday if this amendment passes on the motion and the motion passes. Any other discussion on the amendment to 3 days?
Okay, so Ralph, it doesn't require a law change because the law allows you up to 10 days, but you don't have to take the full 2 days, correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. And anything really that needs law changing, the commission can also request law changes, not just the election office.
That's correct.
Work with legislature to provide bills that will change law.
Yeah, that's one of our roles. Roll call on the amendment, please, Ned.
Commissioner Andrion?
Aye.
Commissioner Aquino?
Aye.
Commissioner Kushney?
Aye.
Commissioner Kikuchi, excuse. Commissioner Kuwata?
No.
Commissioner McAdam?
No.
Commissioner Papalimu?
Aye.
Commissioner Takenaka?
No.
Chair Curtis?
No. Back to the original motion of eliminating early counting. Any other discussion on the original motion to eliminate early counting?
I have discussion.
Anything new?
Yeah, I wanted to, bounce off of what Mr. Nago said. You know, if back in the day when we didn't have mail-in voting, we were able to successfully tabulate results on the same day, and we had higher voter turnout, to me, it would seem more advantageous for us to not have mail-in balloting, so we don't have to count ballots early, and we do in-person voting and
That's a
count
different question.
like we've done it.
That's a different question.
So that's why I support the motion to eliminate early counting.
Thank you.
I'd like the discussion.
Short, quick. Anything new, Ralph?
Yes, this shows that the decision-making process and implementing elections is going backwards, and that we're getting worse at implementing elections. And we can make the right choices and make it better.
Early counting is the question on the table. I would ask Ned to give a roll call on the eliminating early counting motion.
Commissioner Andrion?
Aye.
Commissioner Aquino?
Aye.
Commissioner Kushney?
Aye.
Commissioner Kikuchi, excuse Commissioner Kawada?
No.
Commissioner McAdams?
No.
Commissioner Papalimu?
Aye.
Commissioner Takenaka?
No.
Chair Curtis?
No. The motion dies. Next discussion.
Yes, Chair, I'd like to go to number 9.
Please.
Okay, so they talk about signature verification. On Kauai, observers got to watch signature verification. There were clearly, according to observers, 10 to 15% of signatures that were clearly mismatched. That verification went behind closed doors, and all but a handful were passed. With voting machines, the law says that if you use a voting machine, no questions asked. When I go to Home Depot, because I'm a contractor, I don't sign my name in the signature block. I write in the job that I'm working on, and it passes my signature. So I move to request a log of signature sensitivity settings from the counties using signature matching signature machines.
Is there a second?
I'm sorry, I need to hear that again, Ralph.
I move to request a log of signature sensitivity settings from the counties using signature machines.
So you're asking that they change
we need a second.
Second, and we can discuss it.
Okay, I'll second then so I can discuss.
And you can discuss it, Ms. Papalimu. Go
Okay,
ahead.
I'd like to start discussion since I made the motion,
No,
please.
no, I recognize Commissioner Papalimu.
I just want to clarify, so there are settings on these machines and you're asking for those settings to be more sensitive?
No, I'm asking to know what they're set at. We don't know what they're set at. I can sign at Home Depot. I don't even put my name on the signature block, and it accepts and as well as credit cards, they just accept it. So at what level of setting is it set at is what I want to know. How easy is it to get envelope through the machine? What were the rates of passing versus not passing? I believe our rates are incredibly low for all mail-in to have no fraudulent signatures. And then I think as a commission, we should find out what the settings are on the machines. Are they at 1 or are they at 100? We don't know.
Okay, so we're looking for information.
Other discussion. Okay. Not a conversation, please. Discussion on the motion or against it.
So I'm for the motion because I want to know what the range of settings is.
We understand that was your motion. Thank you. Is there anything new, Ralph?
Yeah, I want to know what the setting is. How many?
You already said that.
Okay.
Nothing new. You're wasting our time.
Mr. Chair, I got a quick question. So is this for all signatures or just observer signatures?
He's talking about the machines, the signature reading machines. Kauai does it manually. Every other county does it with a machine reading the signatures and validation and verification.
Of the voters, right? Not the observers.
No, the voter signatures.
Okay, thanks.
On Kauai, it's manually, or it has been manually. Every other.
Kauai just bought a machine.
Entertain a roll call. Ned, please.
Commissioner Andreon?
Aye.
Commissioner Aquino?
Aye.
Commissioner Kushney?
Aye.
Commissioner Kikuchi, excuse. Commissioner Kuwata?
No.
Commissioner McAdam?
No.
Commissioner Papalimu?
Yes, with reservation.
Commissioner Takenaka?
No.
Chair Curtis?
Aye. It would be a good thing to find out. Any additional discussion on communications and correspondence?
Yes, Chair. I'd like to go to number 10.
Okay.
So item number 10, the Elections Commission said that the certification of the election impacts the swearing in of the elected officials. And I'd just like to point out in 2022 that the elected officials were sworn in on December 5th, and the election was not certified until 11 days later. Okay, so what they're saying, it does not affect their swearing in officials before the election is certified. That's my only point. No motion.
Thank you. Other discussion on communications and correspondence?
Yes, Chair. I'd like to start with the first one from Jamie Detweiler. And I ask that Jamie Detweiler be allowed to speak on her communication.
No, it stands for itself. This is commissioner's discussion.
So in HRS 92.3, it says that we cannot limit the discussion testimony for the public to the beginning of the meeting. And so I'm asking that you allow Jamie Detweiler to testify on this. Otherwise, you'll be violating HRS 92-3.
I would ask the AG's opinion on this, Ms. Cam.
Testifiers should be allowed to testify for the agenda item. So if it's different from her prior testimony, then she should be able to testify since her letter was put on the agenda.
Okay. Thank you, Stella.
You're welcome.
So Ms. Detweiler can testify if there's anything different from her letter of March 19th. Does everybody see that? It was on the agenda. There's a hot link on the agenda to that letter. So what's your point there, Ralph?
Does Miss Jamie, does she want to testify on this item or not?
Is there anything additional you want to add to that, Jamie?
Yes, Chair.
Please, go ahead.
I would like to know if the commissioners were able to read my correspondence prior to this meeting.
I believe so. It was passed out, and Ned, was it part of the package with the announcement of the meeting?
Sure, no. It was linked in the agenda.
It was late, okay, but we did get it. I got it before the meeting. So the answer is yes.
So when I sent it, I sent it right after the last meeting. And then I followed up with a phone call to Ned, and she said it was received and she had sent it to you. And I don't know when it got to the commissioners, if they had enough time to review. This is evidence. This is evidence of my correspondence in 2022. And as previously testified by other people here, it's quite frustrating that it's now 2024 and we're talking about, oh yes, we have to respond to correspondence in a timely manner moving forward. So what happens to those of us in 2022? I felt completely ignored. I still do, because my questions were not answered and the law was not followed. And many people here have testified to that. HRS 16-42 is straightforward. And so clearly, I'm not satisfied with the lack of response. I mean, I still have no response. Just because it's on today's agenda, that is not a response. That is just a statement. My questions have not been responded to.
I'd like to make a motion, Chair.
Please.
I move to randomly audit one precinct in District 37 in accordance with HRS 1642B3, using the voter verifiable paper audit trail, counting all races on the ballot in accordance with Jamie Detweiler's request.
There a second?
Second, Commissioner Andrion.
I believe that Ms. Detweiler does deserve and receive, and she deserves a response from queries like this from the Office of Elections. And their lack of responsiveness is something that we're documenting today. So the motion, and there was a second?
Yes, Chair.
Who seconded that one?
Commissioner Andrion.
And could we reread the motion, please?
I move to randomly audit one precinct in District 37 in accordance with HRS 1642B3, using the voter verifiable paper audit trail, counting all races on the ballot in accordance with Jamie Detweiler's request.
And second, discussion.
I have a question for, I received this on the 14th, and I received all of these communications on the 14th. Our meeting is on this week. And so, or on the 12th, I'm sorry, 12th, 13, 14, 15, yeah, the 12th. There's a lot of information in here. This isn't the only letter we needed to read. Or we
the motion on the floor is for an audit. I would entertain discussion on the motion for an audit.
Hi, can I just confirm the audit is for the 2022 election, correct?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
So it's possible to do an audit?
I don't know. Scott, you still have the ballots from the 2022 election, and an audit is possible.
It's possible, but to do it prior to the 2024 primary election, I mean, we're in the middle of the primary election. We have candidate filing. To simply do a random audit of one precinct, we would still have to find all those ballots within city and county of Honolulu ballots to do that audit.
Chair, I'd like to discuss that, please.
Please.
Okay, so the
answer
identifying
is yes.
mark on
the answer
the
is
ballots.
Yes. The ballots are there.
Are you talking to me?
I'm talking to everybody. Scott,
okay, so
the ballots are available.
So the identifying mark, the individual identifying mark on the ballot, once a precinct is chosen, you can quickly look up, and the Office of Elections has already told us that they can find each individual ballot just from the computer so they can go directly to each where each one is and find them quickly once the precinct is chosen.
Talking about paper ballots, talking about they're available. You want to do it and impose on the clerks in the election office to perform this audit on one precinct. Does somebody think that precinct was skewed somehow? Is that the purpose of their request, Jamie?
Chair, it's outlined in my letter that I sent in 2022. The discrepancies are listed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, the answer to that is yes then. Thank you.
Chair, I have a question for Mr. Nago.
Yes.
Why would it be difficult to...
Wait, no, that's, he stated it's difficult, and it is. Let's accept that.
Why?
Because it is. You're imposing on state election employees that are actively pursuing a primary and a general election. That's a big time thing this year. To go back to 2022, we can go look at that. But it might not be until beginning of next year after this election is what.
She's not waited 2 years because there was, as they responded to her in a timely fashion when she wrote this letter to them, then we wouldn't be staring at an election coming up.
We've already agreed on that.
That's her problem. The problem was created by the Office of Election, who chose not.
We've already agreed to that.
Call the question.
So no, please retract that, Dylan.
I feel is not valid.
Wait. Dylan has requested the question be asked, which requires a vote prior to that. That means we quit discussion. So that requires an immediate action. Thanks, Dylan. And all those in favor of stopping discussion and voting immediately on this motion requires a 2/3 vote, I think. Ned, could you do a roll call on the question of stopping discussion on this motion? Ned?
Commissioner Andrion?
Aye.
Commissioner Aquino?
I don't understand what I'm voting on.
That means we quit discussion and we vote right away, was Dylan's request. If you want to discuss more, vote no. If you're ready to vote, vote aye.
No.
Commissioner Kushney?
No.
Commissioner Kiguchi excused. Commissioner Kawada?
Aye.
Commissioner McAdam?
Aye.
Commissioner Papalimu?
No.
Commissioner Takinaka? Commissioner Takinaka?
Aye.
And Chair Curtis?
Aye. But I think that requires a 2/3 vote, so the motion dies. We continue discussion on the audit of that one precinct that was the motion. Any other? Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Ms. Papalimu.
So I am looking at this, and I get why it might take a little while, and I get that it will inconvenience someone. I don't get we have an upcoming election, so we won't get to it until maybe after that. This woman has certified letters that were received by the Office of Elections with this request. Had they done their due diligence at the time and responded to a constituent, not just a constituent, an actual person that has office.
We've already agreed to that. The question now is whether we audit this precinct.
Sure, I have a discussion.
Please.
So, like you said, you want to prove me wrong. this is a great opportunity that proved that everything is okay with our elections. And I really recommend that you jump on this opportunity, do the audit, and show everybody that everything is straight up and there's nothing to worry about.
Thank you. Other discussion?
Chair, real quick, Commissioner Andrian.
Mr. Andrian.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I take the stand here in favor of this motion. I called the question to make a point that we should not be debating this. This is someone who has waited 2 years for an answer. And so for those of us who were ready to call the question, I hope it's in favor of the motion. And if it's not, I'd love to hear discussion, Chair, on any opposition. I feel like we have a lot of no votes and no discussion on why. Thank you, Chair.
I mentioned the intrusion on an active voting process of the Office of Elections as a minimal thing. And it shouldn't be that hard to do an audit of one precinct, although it's 2 years ago. I concur with a lot of that. Any other discussion? To audit as moved, I would call for a roll call, please.
Commissioner Andrian?
Aye.
Commissioner Aquino?
Aye.
Commissioner Kushney?
Aye.
Commissioner Kikuchi, excused. Commissioner Kuwata?
No.
Commissioner McAdam?
No.
Commissioner Papalimu?
Aye.
Commissioner Takinaka?
No.
Chair Curtis?
I'll say aye. Great. Motion carries. Any other discussion on communications and correspondence?
Yes, Chair.
Okay.
I ask that you allow Wendell Elanto to speak to his communication.
I would ask for a motion on the floor before we discuss it. It stands on its own. He had a chance to talk earlier. Unless you have a motion that we're looking at.
We cannot limit it. According to HRS 92-3, we cannot limit his testimony to the beginning of the meeting.
He also has testimony in communications and correspondence. I would ask Ms. Cam for her hit on this one. Can I prevent Wendell Elanto from additionally speaking?
He is allowed to testify on the agenda item that his correspondence appears on. However, I would like to ask Mr. Elanto that if you have anything different that you would like to testify on now, then please go ahead and testify. But keep in mind also that if you are repeating your testimony, that this will be prolonging this meeting.
Thank you, Stella. Is there a motion on the floor?
No motion. It's just he's allowed HRS 92-3, provided the oral testimonies of interested persons shall not be limited to be the beginning of a board meeting agenda.
Mr. Elanto, do you have anything to add to your correspondence?
I don't, thanks, Commissioner Kushney. At this moment, I don't have anything new to add to the discussion. So thank you very much.
Welcome. Any additional communication and correspondence discussions?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Hey, Ralph.
Well, I'd like to ask the rest of the people who are on the agenda if they would like to speak to their items.
You don't have that option.
Okay, well, in 92-3, it says, provided the oral testimony.
It's okay, they had a chance to talk. They have their communications and correspondence. Do any commissioners have any discussions on this communication and correspondence?
So it's my understanding that Mr. Nago is going to come up with procedures to facilitate their requests in these letters. Is that correct?
I won't speak for Mr. Nago. Do you have comments on any of this communication and correspondence, Ralph?
Yes, so that's my comments. I'm asking if Mr. Nago,
on which communication here are you commenting?
The one from Animo, Daleen, Tom Stanton. So if not, I'll make a motion. I move to have Scott Nago report back to the commission before the next meeting on how he will implement the audits requested by citizens in accordance with HAR 3177-762A3. Is
there a second? Guys, for lack of a second, we go to documented ballot security, which I think we've hammered into the ground already. But go ahead. Does anybody have anything on item number 6, documented ballot security?
I'm sorry, did we just, I'm confused. So a point of order, I guess, or point of information.
What's your question?
The last I know we were talking about Wendell Elanto's communication. He said he did not have anything more to testify to, but we didn't have any discussion on what he submitted.
That's why I asked it. Was there any other discussion on the communication and correspondence?
Commissioner Limo, can you turn on your camera, please?
Oh, sorry. You know, I'm home in my house. I don't always. There we go.
Ms. Papalimo, were there any interest in any of the communications that you'd like to address?
Yes, I would like to speak to Wendell Elanto's letter to the commission because we have not gone over it.
What questions do you have regarding that letter?
Hold on, let me bring it up. He's speaking to the YouTube video and attached transcript of Commissioner Adrian's motion to reappoint Scott Nago. And so as I'm reading through this, it looks like he is saying that motion failed. And that's huge.
The motion that failed was to not reappoint Scott Nago. That failed. It was carried on to the next meeting where Scott Nago was reappointed.
So we're talking about the negative.
That's what was discussed, yes.
We did that for 2 meetings in a row. So I moved to reappoint Scott Nago.
We did that last meeting. He was reappointed last meeting. Number 6, documented ballot security. Is there any discussion on documented ballot security?
I'm sorry, I wasn't done with my discussion on this letter. This says it takes a 2/3 vote to reappoint. Was he reappointed with a 2/3 vote the last time?
I think your information's wrong. Stella?
It does not require a 2/3 vote.
Okay, so then this area of Mr. Elanto's letter is incorrect because it does not require a 2/3 vote. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Okay.
May we move on to documented ballot security? I'll take that as a yes.
Sure, I have discussion.
Any discussion on documented ballot security? Ralph?
Yes, I made a motion in the last meeting. How will that be carried forward to?
You have a motion. Do you have a motion now that you wanted to address?
No, I'm asking if there's going to be. Are you taking action on the motion that was passed on the last meeting?
What was that motion?
The motion was to have the elections, the county clerks, and the chief elections officers certified under penalty of perjury that the chain of custody is being kept in accordance with the laws. There's 2 laws in there.
I don't think we have that authority to require him to respond under all
No,
the other stuff.
we can, according to 91.2, we can make laws, we can administrate rules. The next step is to make a public hearing and give notice. So are you taking any action on that, or is this?
No, no.
Okay. So when we make a motion on that, we can, under 92, what is the number? We can create rules. That's 91. So I move to form a special interaction committee to move the motion that I made in the last meeting forward.
So try make the motion again and we'll act on it today and see what's what.
Let me find maybe Ms. Cam can help us with that. It was give me a second. Okay, so the motion was under 11.7.5. So we can adopt rules pursuant to Chapter 91. And that was the motion that was made. We have the authority to adopt rules pursuant to Chapter 91, and the commission voted in favor of that.
I think Ms.
Pam, what's that?
No, that's in my recollection is that your motion was to adopt rules by voting at the last meeting. And so I said that you cannot adopt rules by voting in your meeting. You need to do so by following Chapter 91 as it states and requires in HRS 11-7.5 subsection 3.
Okay, so how would that process begin? Because that's what I thought we were doing. So we were starting that process, and it was in accordance with Chapter 91. So that motion was starting the process to adopt a rule in accordance with Chapter 91.
The commission would have to decide to amend the rules, and then they would have to go through the process outlined in HRS Chapter 91.
So we already decided to amend the rules.
No, you did not. You did not. Your motion was to amend the rule by voting. You cannot do so.
No, it was not. It was in accordance with, to start the process in accordance with Chapter 91.
So what rule are we trying to change?
We're just trying to say that the elections officials under penalty of perjury need to certify that the chain of custody documentation was done. And right now, by our request for the ballot box chain of custody, we're going to see that we don't have the chain of custody documents. So they need to certify under penalty of perjury that all this stuff was done correctly. And that was starting the process. So Ms. Cam, how would we start the process to adopt a rule under Chapter 91 through the commission?
Okay, at this point, Chair, I have a problem because I think Commissioner Kushney is trying to add something to the agenda that was not posted. I mean, that was not included.
It's on the agenda.
No, it's not. If it was, then there would be a separate item for specifically notifying the public that the commission was intending to address possible amendments to the administrative rules of the commission.
We're starting the process. So the next point is to notify the public.
Ralph, I'll put that on the next agenda to where we can specifically address it as appropriate.
So I'm going to read the motion that we made.
No. We'll put this on the agenda for the next thing, and you can document to me what you want that agenda item to say.
Okay, I already wrote you a letter and it did not get on the agenda, and I already documented what it needed to be. So I'll do it again.
And we'll discuss it at the next meeting?
Yep.
Thank you.
We need to move it forward. We
Is
made
that
a
okay?
motion, we need to move
That's
it forward.
Stella? Okay. So documented ballot security. Is that the end of the discussion of that one? I don't see a need for an executive session unless Stella needs us. And then I would adjourn the meeting.
Chair, I have one more housekeeping item.
Is it on the agenda?
It would relate to the executive session, which I feel we do not need to go into executive session.
Then we're not going to executive session, then we'll adjourn.
No, we need to discuss the item, please.
If it's not on the agenda, we ain't discussing it.
It is on the item. It's my letter to Stella Cam on her advising the commission and that she's not responding to my letters.
That's between you and she.
It's an issue for the commission.
So I'll adjourn the commission unless anybody has any strong. We have to take a motion on adjournment.
Yes.
Stella.
Yes.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
By who?
Kawada.
Second.
Second that.
Okay.
Second that.
Claire McAdam. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Got one nay.
I oppose.
Two opposed. So
We oppose. Chair,
let's
I know you said it's adjourned, but I've been seeing hands go up.
Okay,
they're not being recognized.
We'll take a roll call on the adjournment. Ned?
Commissioner Andrion?
Nay.
Commissioner Aquino?
Nay.
Commissioner Kushney?
No.
Commissioner Kukuchi, excuse Commissioner Kawada?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdam?
Yes.
Commissioner Papalimu? Commissioner Takinaka?
Yes.
Chair Curtis?
Yes.
4-4.
Then we go back to discussion on the adjournment.
The motion failed. There's no discussion. I move to go into executive session.
For what purpose?
To discuss the roles of the Deputy Attorney General and her advisement of the commission.
I don't think we need to go in executive session for that, but.
Okay, then I want to discuss it in public, then that's my preference.
Then bring it up on the agenda on the next meeting. It's not on today's agenda.
It's on the agenda item. To consult with the commission's attorney on questions or issues regarding commission powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and liabilities.
That's the purpose of the executive session.
That's on the agenda. I'd like to discuss it.
Okay, your motion was to go into executive session.
My preference is not to, but somehow we need to talk.
Why are you doing it? That's because it's the only.
Because you wanted to adjourn. I want to talk on this session, on this item.
The item's on the, not on this one.
It is right there. It's number 7.
Executive session. I need to have a purpose for the executive session. And if that's the sole purpose of the executive session is what? To discuss questions and issues regarding the commission's powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and liabilities. That's regarding the commission's powers. And what you're talking about is the Attorney General and the response to you.
Okay, that's one.
And that's what I'm asking about, what our powers are. He hasn't responded.
It's stated in the purpose of the commission. We don't have subpoena power, by the way.
So this is an item on our agenda. Are we
Okay.
going to take it up?
So, there's been a motion to go to executive session. And the vote was what, 4-4?
There was
No,
no
sir, the
vote.
motion was to adjourn.
Okay, so the motion to go into executive session was made by Ralph and seconded.
There was
And-
no second, Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you make that motion again, Ralph? Motion to
I
go into
moved-
executive session.
Well, I move to discuss these things on the item.
You need to go into executive session if you're going to discuss it today.
Okay, I move to go into executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and second to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the commission's powers as stated. I think does it take a 2/3 vote to go into executive session?
Yes, it does.
So, is there any other discussion on going into executive session?
Chair, real quick.
Yep.
I'm going to be in opposition to the motion, only because I know we're not going to have the 2/3 vote anyway. Ralph, Commissioner Cushney, I think it'd be more beneficial to have it on a public agenda anyway. So that's it. I'm opposed to the motion.
Okay, I would request that Ms. Cam answer
There's
my
other
letter.
discussion on the motion to go into executive session. Otherwise, I'll take a roll call vote to go into executive session. Ned?
Commissioner Andrion,
Nay.
Commissioner Aquino,
On that premise, I vote nay.
Commissioner Cushney,
Yes.
Commissioner Kikuchi, excused. Commissioner Kuwata,
No.
Commissioner McAdam,
No.
Commissioner Papalimu, Commissioner Papalimu,
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Takenaka,
No.
Chair Curtis.
No. Motion to go into executive session dies. We're on item 8, adjournment.
Chair, I would like to talk about the topic in
You
public.
can put it on the agenda for the next meeting. Right now, we're at adjournment. You can adjourn or not.
This will be the second time that I requested, Chair.
That's okay. We can put it on the agenda for the next meeting and we'll discuss it then.
Excellent. In open session.
I hope so, yes. That would be a good idea. So all those in favor of adjourning say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries unanimously. We're adjourned. Thank you very much. Aloha.
Bye.